Welcome back to Voices for the Voiceless. It's your boy Jay Taylor. Peace and blessings, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday. All right, so let's just get straight to it because we got a lot to talk about. And Iran war escalates as Trump meets Xi Jinping. Global power shift. Wow. So amidst the Iran, United States, and Israel conflict, President Trump is actually on his way. He probably landed in China by now, by the time you hear this recording, to meet with President Xi, which is the president of China. And this is going to be one for the books. I'm eager to see how this meeting goes, right? But before we even get to that, because all of this conflict really revolves around China. I mean, from Venezuela to this going on in Iran, a lot of this, you know, is it has a lot to do by proxy with the United States and China. Well, as you know, the Iran and the United States conflict, the war going on, the ceasefire, the blockade, everything like that. We talked about, up until this point, is still in effect. And the ceasefire is holding on by a thread. Iran actually, what new news is Iran offered a peace treaty. It was, they written out a list of demands and to see if President Trump would agree to have peace in the Middle East. But that peace treaty was rejected by Trump. Mainly because it did not include them handing over the uranium. That's the stuff they use to make nuclear weapons. That's why the whole conflict started in the first place, because they said that they had enough enriched uranium to make not only one, but 11 nuclear weapons. They actually told our military that they was like, well, y'all not over there trying to make no bombs, right? Now, no nukes. Y'all can't be making no nukes. And they not only said, man, shoot, we a nuke. Like, man, we got enough to make 11 nukes. And we gonna use them. That's how bold they were about it. That's why all of this started, because these people were trying to make nuclear weapons. And you think gas prices high now? If Iran had a nuclear weapon, they would hold the Strait of Hormuz hostage. Okay, y'all gas prices is gonna be $20 a gallon this month. They'll be playing all time. You see what they doing now? They blocked off everybody. They messing with the whole world's economy right now by blocking the Strait of Hormuz, because that was their only leverage with what was going on with the war. And also, since that not only did they say that they weren't going to give over the uranium, they said that they want the United States to acknowledge that they are actually to have control of the Strait of Hormuz. Like, Trump read that and said, man, I ain't even read but 2 lines before I threw it away. He didn't even read the whole piece of paper. So there's no way that the president of the United States is going to agree to Iran having enriched uranium to make a nuclear weapon. And there's no way that the president is going to agree that Iran has control of the Strait of Hormuz. That is international waterways that is free for the whole world to utilize. So no, that is not going to work, right? But see, what I think Iran is doing is they are trying to stall the president out long enough that he would fall to political pressure, because they know in Iran they are very aware of our politics. They know that he's under a lot of scrutiny for this war. They know that gas prices are high, and people just want to be over it. And they figure the closer it gets to midterms, he's eventually going to cave. But on their end, they're losing $500 million a day because they can't sell no oil. the people in their country, the citizens, the Iranians, are on the verge of revolt again. So their oil wells, like we spoke about before, are filling up, and they're about to explode any day now. So, they got a lot of pressure. So this is a Mexican standoff. Who gonna fall first due to the waiting game? But I think before that happens, I anticipate that we're gonna eventually end up going back to military attacks, because they're not trying to capitulate. They're stalling. They're sending over unreason. They're not being reasonable. And also, since the start of this conflict, it is something that I didn't touch on as much, is that we got problems with the United States, Israel, and Iran, right? So, but Iran turned around. They have pressure in their region. They have bombed 14 different countries in the Middle East since this conflict started for no reason. They bombed Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. They threw bombs at UAE. They threw bombs at Oman. They threw bombs at 14 different countries that didn't have nothing to do with it. That whole region is sick of Iran at this point. That regime over there. So just then, we're not understanding that since we have weakened their military, uh, they starting to respond. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have been bombing Iran. UAE has been in talks with Israel, trading intelligence to so Kuwait, all these different countries in the Middle East are starting to jump into the conflict. A lot of our allies in the Middle East, they I mean, it's some catch to it when Muslims, Arabs is working with the Jewish people. That people don't like you too much when Jews and Muslims are working together to get you off, get you out of here. Israel, yes, is working with UAE and Saudi Arabia against Iran. They doing their own strikes, right? And also in Kuwait, 4 Iranian spies were captured in Kuwait after a massive shootout. So they infiltrating these other countries in the Middle East, and they got caught in Kuwait, and it was a shootout where one of the soldiers from Kuwait, he didn't get unalive, but he got hit up, he got shot, and then they captured these 4 Iranian IRGC soldiers or spies that was in that country. And I feel bad for them because, Middle East, they going to treat you a little bit different. They don't treat you as nice as they do over here in the United States, So them spies, they gonna be torturing them guys for information over there in Kuwait. That's going to be crazy. But, this is getting embarrassing at this point for Iran. And it's like, why don't y'all just do a deal, bro? You know what I'm saying? And get it over with. They trying to wait out the United States. And also, like I said, economic fury is still happening. The $500 million a day. The United States Navy still got the blockade. But it seems like we are getting close to going back to military strikes soon after that last joke of a proposal wasn't approved. So no deal as of yet. But yes, so let's get to the meeting over here with President Trump and President Xi. They meeting in China. Now, the funny thing about it is Secretary of State Marco Rubio was banned from China from 6 years ago. I'm not so sure as to why he was banned from China, but Trump was like, hey, man, that's my Secretary of State. He gonna slide with me, man. Y'all need to lift the ban. And China capitulated. They lifted the ban. So Marco Rubio, President Trump, and a few others are headed to China. They maybe have touched down by now, right? So here you have the two biggest economies in the world, the two biggest militaries in the world, the most advanced technologies in terms of AI are sitting down. The first time since October of last year, right? So we understand that China is behind a lot of this stuff. When we went and took Maduro out of Venezuela last year or earlier this year, I believe, China and Venezuela were doing a lot of business together. See, what Trump is trying to do is lock down the Western Hemisphere. So we don't need our adversaries having interest in the Western Hemisphere where they can dictate certain things. You know what I'm saying? So that China is also involved with Russia and Iran as they were trying to get away from using the United States dollar. They were trying to formulate a different form of currency to get around using the US dollar that would have collapsed our economy on the global scale massively. So a lot of these wars are by proxy world wars that really is China versus United States. China is number two, we number one. As it stands today, we the number one world superpower. They want to be equal footing with us. So they're doing everything in their power to complete that. They send over spies. I think it was a mayor, I forget what city that was a spy. Yeah, that just got sentenced in one of these cities. You know what I'm saying? So you got a face-to-face meeting, the first face-to-face meeting of 2026, and they're scheduled to meet 3 times more later this year. And once again, this is the first time they met since October of last year. Venezuela, Iran. Now with the war in Iran, is you have to understand, China buys 90% of Iran's oil. China is Iran's biggest financer. And also, with the blockade, one of China's ships that was going over there to pick up some oil was stopped and seized by the United States 3 weeks ago. They had them turned. They was found that they was trying to give them some extra stuff to make some military stuff too or something. So, it's a little tight. The tensions are tight with this meeting. The stakes are high. And China is not our enemy, but it is our adversary, right? And you remember since Trump been in office, the trade and tariff war, China didn't want to, capitulate to certain things. Then we raised tariffs on China. And China raised tariffs on us. You know what I'm saying? So we had that. It's a lot of power play going on with this. So we're going to be updated on what's going to happen in this meeting between President Xi and President Trump. That meeting will take place Tuesday. Not Tuesday. Today, Tuesday, Thursday. Right now, they having all type of different festivals. And they're going to be showing a lot of love to Trump out there. So expect to see that, them being at different events and things like that all day tomorrow and, having different ceremonies and stuff like that. But yeah, man, just wanted to bring this quick update. It's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. We love y'all. Until next time, we shall see you soon. Peace and blessings.